From the Acts of the Apostles, when the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. Suddenly there came a sound from heaven, like the rush of a mighty wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Then there appeared to them tongues as of fire, distributed and resting on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them utterance. Now devout Jews from every nation under heaven were living in Jerusalem. At this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in his own language. They were amazed, saying, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that each of us hears in his own native language? We are Parthians, Medes, Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya near Cyrene, Romans residing here, Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs, and we hear them speaking in our own languages about the mighty works of God." Dearest sisters and brothers, today is the Feast of Pentecost, and with this solemnity the Easter season ends. We are in fact the 50th day after Easter, and from the liturgical point of view, from the ecclesial point of view, the Easter season, these 50 days, are as if they were one great day. We should not be surprised, therefore, that in the Book of the Apostles, from which we have taken the passage you have heard, you report the gift of the Holy Spirit to thee on the 50th day. The Gospel passage from the Gospel of John, which we usually read for our good news, speaks of the gift of the Holy Spirit on Easter afternoon. It is one great day, and the evangelist John and the evangelist Luke begin from two ecclesial, theological, and experimental perspectives to present us with the same reality, the gift of the Holy Spirit that God the Father gives us through Jesus. There is no contradiction, therefore, they are two visions that complement each other perfectly and help us understand this great mystery, this great gift, even better. We have chosen to read the book of the Acts of the Apostles, and therefore the first reading of today's feast, because the Gospel passage is the same as the one for the second Sunday of Easter, April 12th. If any of you would like to listen to the commentary on that Gospel again, today we prefer the book of Acts, precisely because it is also the episode we know best, the one we remember best from our catechism days. On this day, which did not begin with Christianity, the Holy Spirit is given to us. First, Pentecost was an agricultural festival. It celebrated the new life that began again in spring, after the hibernation and death of winter. Then, at Pentecost, the Jewish people began to celebrate the gift of the law, the gift of the Torah that God gave to Moses on Mount Sinai, the Church on this day. It established the feast of the Holy Spirit, the one who gives us the new law, no longer written on tablets of stone outside of us, but written on the tablets of flesh in our hearts and therefore within each of us. A law, therefore, that is not imposed on us by someone externally, but that comes to us from within, the heart that is part of our very nature, the new nature, however, that the Lord has given us. The Bible speaks often of the Spirit from the moment of creation. In fact, the book of Genesis tells us that the Spirit hovered over the waters and then, in many passages of the Old, but especially the New Testament, it is spoken of. For example, John the Baptist said that he baptized with water, but Jesus came who would baptize with the Holy Spirit and fire, Jesus himself. Beginning his ministry and speaking at night with Nicodemus, a Pharisee, one of the members of the Sanhedrin, he tells him that we must be born from above, we must be born from the water. But also from the Holy Spirit, because what is born from the earth, from the flesh, is flesh and is destined to end, but what is born from heaven, what is born from the Spirit, will last forever, because the gift of the Spirit is the gift of a new life, the same divine life that was in Jesus, which will give us the possibility to perform the same actions, the same gestures that Jesus performed even at the moment of Jesus' death. In the Gospel of John, reference is made to the Spirit. In fact, while the Gospel of Mark tells us that at a certain point Jesus breathed his last, died on the cross, as happens to each of us, the evangelist John says that at the moment of death Jesus gave us his Spirit, gave us his Spirit, the Holy Spirit, divine life. And then on Easter afternoon, as I mentioned referring to today's Gospel, which precisely it's the same as the second Sunday of Easter,